everyone, Bonnie Bernstein welcoming you back to the Athlete Effect podcast, where we showcase successful women in all different industries who are harnessing life skills learned through sports to crush their careers. If you're a current athlete out there, or maybe you're in your post-competition era, or you're a parent or coach with a female athlete in your life, or maybe you're just looking for a little bit of leadership inspo, well, good news, you're in the right place. Thanks for taking a second to subscribe, like, share, hit us up on social. It really does mean the world to us, and we'd love your feedback. Today's guest, Dr. Seun Adigun, renowned chiropractor and biomechanist, who's one of fewer than 150 athletes ever to compete in both the Summer and Winter Olympics. And what's amazing about Seun is she's kind of a late bloomer. She didn't even start hurdling until her senior year in high school, yet qualified for London in 2012. For our entrepreneurs, you'll hear how Dr. Seun has harnessed her sports superpowers to not only launch the Nigerian Bobsled Federation, but start her own private practice and develop game-changing research for special needs athletes. So here we go. Ready, set, let's dance.
We going in. We going in. You better get it, Bonnie. You better get it, girl. Yes, please.
Dr. Seun Adigun,
yes.
Welcome to the Athlete Effect Sisterhood.
Thank you.
Since 1924, when the Winter Olympics became a standalone event, there have been fewer than 150 athletes who've competed in both the Winter and Summer Games. You are one of them.
Indeed.
What does that mean to you?
Honestly, I think about the accolades that come with that, and the titles, but because I didn't start it for that reason, it's still hard for me to just be like, I really did that, right? Like, I really did that.
I know so many kids, including myself, who when they started the sport dream of the Olympics. Were you not one of those kids?
To be fair, I was not.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I think I was more concerned about trying to go to the NBA when I was a kid, right? Like, I grew up playing basketball in the neighborhood, and, at that time, like, the WNBA was really growing and coming around, but it was like, I think I'm gonna be the first girl to play in the NBA.
Well, you also had a distant cousin in Hakeem Olajuwon. So was the NBA more on your radar because you had somebody in the family who was the best of the best?
Yeah, that's probably accurate, honestly. And I grew up in the 90s in Chicago with Jordan and the Bulls. Like, all I wanted to do was be a part of whatever situation they had going on. I wanted some of that.
Funny enough, ESPN moved me to Chicago in 1995 to cover the second three-peat for Michael Jordan. And that 96 Dream Team, they were training at the Moody Bible Institute on LaSalle. I lived 1 block away.
Oh, wow.
So I would literally go outside, walk around the corner, and go cover your cousin. Do you remember seeing him in the Olympics and that being part of the impetus for your dream to play in the NBA?
You want to know what's interesting is, like, I knew that I was related to him because my dad, just told us about the lineage and all that. But the moment that created the Olympic thing for me was watching the opening ceremonies of the Athens Games.
Okay.
That was when I thought to myself, if I ever become a professional athlete, I'm going to compete for Nigeria. Because when I watched the Olympics come on and I saw everyone representing their country and their culture, and I knew growing up, first generation Nigerian in Chicago, right? Like 100% Black neighborhood, but in diverse schools. It was like, I know what I've poured into who I am as an American, but to identify as a Nigerian-American and never have done anything to kind of contribute to that Nigerianness of what I was like, that's what I would want to do.
Growing up Muslim, you have always observed Ramadan, which entails fasting from sunup to sundown for a month.
Yes.
How does one train and still perform at the highest levels when you can't eat for most of the day?
I feel like during Ramadan, you're operating from a bigger space. You're detached from your own idea of what you need, and you are pouring into the things that you want to serve, right? Whether it's a higher power, whether it is people, the needy, the less fortunate. Your mind is focused more on the discipline and the others and growing your spiritual experience, right? Versus what they consider worldly needs, right? Like, no, eating and drinking, right? Not that you don't need them to survive, but again, it speaks to the power of the mind as well. So training is fine now. No, summers in Texas and Houston, they can get a little gnarly outside, right? And so you still got to listen to your body a little bit, right? But I've never had an issue with fasting during Ramadan whenever I was an athlete.
You kind of lived two distinct lives growing up. When you walked out of the house, you were an American. When you were inside the house, you were Nigerian, because both of your parents grew up there and emigrated here to raise the family. What was that like for you?
I don't know that I will know the actual impact of it until like I start having kids of my own, right? Because I always just operated on this dichotomy of like, this is how it was out and this is how it is in, right? And there's just like a switch you turn on and you turn off when it happens. But I think it was a challenge because I felt misunderstood everywhere I went. In the house, outside of the house. Like I was never enough of any one thing, which I feel like most children of immigrant parents will feel no matter where they're from. You're never really enough of the one thing that you are or enough of the one thing that you live, right? So that's probably the biggest challenge.
Did sports help give you an identity when you struggled to really have one because you were split between two worlds?
That's a good question. I don't know if it gave me an identity or if it gave me like a purpose. Like it gave me an outlet. It gave me a place to express myself. It gave me a place to like, I didn't have to worry about that because I could just be dominant, be competitive, be strong, like that was kind of what sports did for me. It started off with me just wanting to hang out with my older brother, right? Because how many older brothers want to hang out with their younger sister? And I'm like, I just want to hang out with you, right? And he's like, no. So for me, it's like, well, win over the friends so everyone picks me on the team.
It's so funny that we're talking about basketball in the early days of your life because everybody knows you for track. But we need to talk about the notion that you felt you were going to be the first female senior high school basketball player dunking. Which in and of itself it's an admirable goal.
Yeah.
The fact that you were 5'5" and had these aspirations, I just really need to understand how that was a mindset.
I think this whole notion of impossible is nothing was embedded since either that or I was just kind of
You didn't
crazy.
get that memo yet.
Yeah, no, either that, no. But believe it or not, I was a pretty athletic kid. And I had like a 40-inch vertical when I was in high school through college. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Okay, that's legit.
Yeah, by my freshman year in high school, even at 5'5", and to be fair, I actually earned a half an inch in adulthood. So now I'm 5'6", but I was 5'5" and a half. So I'm really proud about that. But even at 5'5", I was able to touch the backboard as a freshman in high school. Right, but my hands are so small.
You got serious hops.
Oh, that was why I played power forward my whole life. And in my defense, I was a tall kid. I just stopped growing at some point. Like I was 5'5",
but I was a tall kid.
Because I was 5'5" in like the third grade. Like I was a tall, like on the court, I played with the tall kids.
Yeah.
And then I just stopped growing.
So why are we not having the conversation with Seun, the WNBA player, versus Seun, the Olympic track star who also began the Nigerian bobsled team? Why are we not having that conversation?
Well, because my grandmother was 5 feet even. Right. And my grandfather, who happens to be Hakeem Olajuwon's uncle, is 7-footers. They're all 7-footers.
Yeah.
But my granny's small. So she just cut off the little height I was supposed to get right on out of us.
How did track come into the picture for you then?
I was hood fast, Bonnie.
I didn't realize that was a term, but I like it.
It is a thing.
Hood fast.
Yes.
How do we define hood fast?
It's when you kick them shoes off and you in the middle of the street and everybody head and elbows are going like this and you run real fast. That was me.
Faster than the boys?
Than the boys.
Really?
That was me. Yes.
Was it your idea to start running or was it mama's idea to start running?
Neither. It most definitely was not my idea. Because even to this day, I don't like running. And people have a hard time believing that.
What's the origin track story for you?
So we had this one track meet that we would do as a middle school. All the middle schools would like make their team and then they'd run at the high school. Okay. It was one day. I mean, people are running in basketball shoes and whatever they have, right? Like
whatever you could put
whatever you could put together. So I had this coach that was a high school coach. I would run that one meet And I would always be the anchor, and he would come out and see, and he just would see me in junior high, and he was just like, man, this little girl is fast, and he kept telling me, I should run track. And I was like, I'm a ball player. My freshman year in high school is when he was like, hey, them legs were born to run. He literally sat me in the face and said, those legs were born to run. And I was like, I'm a ball player. He's like, man, forget that basketball. Those legs were born to run.
Well, let's back it up, though, because I heard a story about 9-year-old Seun running her first track meet.
I remember her.
You need to share that.
Yeah, she was not a happy. Oh my God, Bonnie, you just want to rehash out these scars.
Bringing up all the PTSD.
The level of anxiety.
We're doing it.
Oh my God, this is probably the first time I saw my mother run. I was running and my mom was given the idea to let me run track because I was fast. And so I was invited to do this track meet, and we drove, it was 2 hours or an hour and a half away. It was so far. And I remember sitting in the front, because we had MapQuest, but then we also had the maps there, you know what I mean? So I'm like, no, we got to turn on this exit.
Young people are like, what's a map?
Right, exactly. So I remember us getting there, and as soon as we pulled up, I was entered into 100 and 200, and they're like, oh, she missed her race, but there's still the 400 available.
Oh, no.
Let's see, do you want to enter in there? And my mom is like, we just drove 2 hours. And she looked at me, she was like, I was like, yeah, I can run that. I'm like, I can run anything. What y'all want to do? Put me in it, right? The young competitor in me that could fly off a building. She puts me in this 400. I'm ready to go. I line up, I start, shoot the gun. Pew! I'm running, I'm out of there. To the extent where the announcers are like, whoa, who's that in lane, whatever lane I was in? She's gone. 200 meters, I'm still going. And all of a sudden, you just see it all
train
start
ran
happening.
Out of steam.
Oh my God. And here comes one person. Phew. The next person. Phew. And I'm just like, and I looked down and I still had straightaway left. I remember looking and knowing that I still had more track left to run. And I was like, I ain't gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it, but my heart wouldn't allow me to stop. But the reality of it is I was born asthmatic, right? And nobody taught me how to run the 400 because I wasn't a 400 runner. And I think I walked. I was across the line, legs are shaking, and I get into the line and I tick like this. My mom was at the finish line oh my God, you people want to kill my child. She was so pressed. She was so upset. She said, oh my God. She said, Sean, I was like, you ever saw a child wheezing and they don't have any control? I could not get my breath for anything. And I swore on that day, I was like, I am never running ever again.
So you're asthmatic, but you also learned very early on that you have a heart condition called tachycardia, which is where your heart is racing far more than it's supposed to be. How was that discovered?
My specific condition was AV node reentry tachycardia, which basically indicated that there were a lot of tissues blocking the signal between the top and the bottom of the heart. When I was playing outside, I remember coming home and telling my mom, I was like, sometimes I feel this thing in my chest where it feels like my heart is beating really fast. She's like, let's set an appointment to see a doctor about it. Right. And when we did, they're like, let's investigate it more. And it was still so early on in the condition that they were having a hard time pinning it until they finally did. So I had maybe 5 or 6 different heart monitors that I had to wear. And I'm like, no, this is my watch, y'all. It's a little toaster watch, right? Because I'm going to have to catch the episode when it comes. Or I actually had to wear EKG almost, where it was it had pads on it, but it had a little pager looking thing. So I was like, oh yeah, this is just my little beeper. I'll just be looking. It's just connected to my heart.
How did that work though when you were playing basketball or when you really took up track seriously in high school?
I had to monitor it. I always had to get cleared by a cardiologist first because I did end up getting the first heart surgery that I had in 1999.
So you were 13?
Yeah. And I was in 7th grade, and I remember everyone being so nervous about it, like, because I was so young. And it was the first time that the procedure had gone from open heart to a catheter surgery where they just sent wires through to burn out the extra tissues.
With that condition, how self-conscious were you when you were racing and training? And obviously when we're training, we have elevated heart rate. How much was that sticking in your mind, especially as a younger athlete?
As a younger athlete, I didn't think about it at all.
Really?
Didn't even care. I was looking at everybody like, why y'all so worried? I'm fine. You know, like I still had such a fearless complex that I was just competitive. I just want to play. I just want to compete. I just want to get out there. You know, like I wasn't thinking about my heart. I'm like, my heart is fine.
Was it always that way? Even when you were in college, you just kind of blocked it out?
I was aware, and I was more aware in college, but I just blocked it out. It was more of an annoyance, honestly, for me, because I kind of grew up feeling like things were excuses, right? Like, I don't want nobody to feel sorry for me thinking that I have this. So I kind of masked it. It was like my coping mechanism. It was like, I don't want to walk around owning this condition that makes me this like vulnerable person. I'm like, nah. Like, who want to fight? You know, like,
well, let's go.
Right. Like, I'm very much okay. There's nothing going on. Like, I'm here, I'm standing. If I have an episode, fine, it'll pass. I just need to stop for a second. Let me breathe a little bit. Like, me and my coach, we had a very clear understanding of what was to happen whenever I had an episode.
Were you pursuing two parallel paths when you were looking at colleges? Were you looking to play hoops and looking to run as well?
I was honestly first looking to play basketball. I wanted to play basketball.
Did you get recruited anywhere?
I did not.
Okay.
And one of the big reasons why I didn't is because obviously I played out of position, right? I was a 5'5".
Nobody was recruiting 5'5"
power forwards, right? And then I also transferred high school in the middle of my junior year. And I transferred. Man, I transferred to a school that was like an hour and a half south.
Okay.
Right. So I started school. That's what really jacked it up, was I started school somewhere and then finished the school year, the other half of the school year in another school, and then showed up. So like people thought I just fell off the side of the earth. Right. They were recruiting this school and then all of a sudden I'm not there. So I just kind of fell by the wayside.
You knew you wanted to go to the University of Houston.
I did.
As a Chicago kid, how was that decision made?
So first of all, I knew I wanted to get out of Chicago. I said, there is not going to be another summer or winter where this wind is going to slap me in the face the way it does so disrespectfully. I don't know that I'm going to sign myself up for this level of abuse from the Chicago wind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself in one of the warmer states, because by that time, my senior year, I knew that I needed to make a decision for school. And I knew that I wanted sports to pay for school because I didn't want to burden my parents with any type of finances. I wanted them to be able to focus on my younger brothers. Like I wanted to make sure I could pay for school. I applied for like 110 or 116 academic scholarships. Like I was dedicated to making sure. Great. Yeah. So I knew that I was already academically very sound, but I knew that I wanted to play a sport. So I had to just make the decision my senior year in high school that I would go for track. And so I just started focusing on track.
So you really didn't start hurdling in earnest until your senior year in high school?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Why University of Houston? The heat aside, what specifically about that institution said, this is for me?
It spoke to me, and it was the last school that I found in Texas, because I knew I wanted to go either Texas, California, or Florida once I decided that track was going to be my thing.
Where all the great athletes are, those three states.
Exactly, and where the heat is, where you can actually train. I was like, I can't train anywhere else.
Yeah.
And you want to know something funny? I ran summer track that summer, and there was some real fine guys from Houston. And I was like, you know what? We going to Houston, so let me start looking for schools in Houston. No, but honestly, when I found University of Houston, I started researching the program and its rich athletic culture, its rich athletic history. I'm like, you telling me Carl Lewis went here, Carol Lewis went here, you talking about Lear Burrell, like all of these legendary athletes went there, not just in track, but in all other sports. And then I came on a visit, and the energy in the city, I was like, this is where I need to be.
So I would imagine with all the different academic scholarships you had, you didn't need to be focused on getting the ride for track. So did you initially walk on to Houston because you were such a late bloomer?
Yeah, I was a walk-on.
How long was it until you got your scholarship?
1 semester.
1 semester. As soon as Seun walks on the track and she does her hurdles, which she's been doing for like a year.
15 seconds.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I was so raw, right? So I had such a huge learning curve, but also such huge upside. And so as soon as I had a coach, because I didn't really have a hurdle coach when I transferred high schools and actually started running. So once I actually had a coach, a program, a system, I was able to like be that diamond in the rough.
When you were younger, you kind of know what you know, and young people are fearless. And so the heart condition wasn't something you thought about. I don't want to assume, but I would imagine that changed your junior year when you were at a regional meet in Nebraska. And the heart started ticking way faster than it should. What do you remember about that experience?
This was the first time I had finally made it to the regional meet in an individual event, because every year I had made it in a relay, and I wanted to be able to own my like greatness in an individual event. And I finally made it as a hurdler. And all I could remember was I'm in the middle of the race and I could feel my heart racing. And that doesn't happen. You know, when you're racing, and my race is 13 seconds long, right? Like, so I'm not thinking about anything other than the hurdle in front of me, the running, but I could feel my heart. And so then afterwards, I walked off and I could still feel, it's like, oh, I'm having an episode. I was like, well, this is the first time I'm having an episode while running. And so the like, I don't know if she was a trainer or she was just someone who's helping and working the meet. She comes over to me and she's like, you all good? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And so then she's still standing kind of towards the finish line. And once I like crouched over to like kind of squat down, I looked up at her and I'm smiling like this. And she looks at me and she's like, you okay? And I'm like, no. I'm literally looking at her like, no. And she's like, so she's not sure if I'm serious. She's like, I was like, see that paramedic over there? Tell him to come this way. Right, literally, this is how I'm behaving. So the paramedic comes over and I start explaining, I'm like, so I have this tachycardia condition, I have this AVAR, and he's like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to put you on a stretcher. I said, absolutely not. We're not putting me on a stretcher because this goes down. I'm just gonna walk with you right onto this place, but I just wanna make sure you know what's going on just in case I fall over or something. He's like, no, we can't risk that. We have to put you on a stretcher. I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I had to be carted off in a stretcher, because to that moment, I had this like hero complex, right? Like this superhuman complex of like, nothing could defeat me. And now all of a sudden, everyone would see me in this very vulnerable and what felt like a defeated moment. Because to that point, nobody, except for like my coach and some of my teammates, even knew that I had anything going on, right? And so I was just like, oh God. It was more the embarrassment of having to explain to people why I'm being carted on. Oh, I got this little heart condition thing. Well, heart. And then I remember people would get so serious about it. So I felt a way about it.
And the doctor said he wanted to restart your heart?
He did. It was actually the paramedic. So usually when I'm in this episode, it'll last sometimes for seconds to a couple minutes, but we're like close to 25, 30 minutes after, my heart rate is still at like 180 beats a minute.
Oh, wow.
And everyone's like, he looks at me and he's like, yeah, I think we might need to restart your heart because, you know, bearing down, doing all the things is not getting your heart rate to go down. I looked at that man just like this. I said, no, we're not. We're not going to restart my heart. What we're going to do is we're going to sit here and wait.
Have you learned to become okay with being vulnerable?
Oh, yeah.
Because clearly you were not in that space when you were in college.
Mm-mm.
The fact that what worried you most was having to explain a health condition to people and not thinking, okay, this is putting my life at risk. How did you become comfortable with vulnerability?
When I knew I had to have the second heart surgery. By my senior year, I recognized, you know, sudden heart deaths that happen in different sports, different athletes all over the world, so I'm a lot more aware. And now as a senior now, I'm 21 years old. I'm like, man, do I really want to die at 21?
Did you ever think about leaving?
No. I fought it with every will that I had in my existence.
What kept you going, knowing the potential physical risk?
Well, one, my family, right? Two, I love life. I just love it. I love the idea of the adventure that comes with every day and every moment. I love taking on new challenges.
There was still a lot you needed to do.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders, and while your parents are from Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
you had only visited when you were very, very young.
Very small, yeah.
When you thought about your mortality
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that there was more that you needed to do, how much of a role did that play in you deciding to run for Nigeria
Mm-hmm.
for the Olympics
Mm-hmm.
rather than the US?
That even heightened it more, because before that point, I knew that if I had ever become a professional athlete, I wanted to compete for Nigeria, just for the purpose of contributing something that felt good and was positive to the country. But after this, I didn't think that I was going to be a professional athlete. In college, I just wanted to get through workouts. You know what I mean? I would show up every day to a workout I just got jumped by 6 people the day before, because my workouts felt different than the average person. But I didn't know that until after my second heart surgery.
They felt different because of a consistently elevated heart rate or for some other reason?
Well, you got to think about the heart, right? The heart is such a powerful part of your entire existence. Yeah, there's the direct feeling of can I breathe? Is my chest heavy? Is my heart rate crazy high? And there's also the indirect effects of are my muscles recovering? Do I feel like crap after this workout? Do I, those types of things, which were my normal. And then after this heart surgery, Bonnie girl, I would look at my teammates this how y'all feeling? I was like the Energizer bunny. Mm. I could train, I could do things. I was like, oh, I went from being somebody that was, we know Sharon's going to show up in a final, or she'll be at the big meets, but she's not winning, till number 14 in the world after that heart surgery. 6 weeks after heart surgery, I qualified for the NCAA meet for the first time indoor in an individual event.
Can we talk about how vital it is for aspiring Olympians to have college programs at their disposal?
It is extremely vital, because you need the experience, you need the discipline, and as a young talent, you need reps.
You also need the coaching and the resources that
Exactly.
a lot of athletes can't afford to pay for on their own or their families.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%.
What did it mean for you? Because you weren't training for the Olympics in Nigeria. You were training initially as a college athlete,
Yeah.
and then continuing afterwards. What would your options have been without college track?
What's interesting is I had already gotten into a grad program in Tennessee, because I wasn't planning on being a professional athlete. I knew I wanted to work in sports medicine. I knew I wanted to help athletes like myself who had dealt with some level of ailments, right? Because besides the heart, I had feet, knee, I had all kinds of stuff. Every body part that
you really had no business being an Olympic athlete.
I had no business doing anything, Bonnie. I needed to just stay home and sit down.
You need to sit on the couch with a bag of chips,
literally
watching Netflix and chilling, apparently.
That's probably the main reason why I was like, no, I'm going to do everything. Seriously, I had all the things. There was a time in my college career where I had to have a boot on both feet, and I refused to walk around with 2 boots. So I would just switch the boot whenever this one hurt more. I would put it on the other one when this one hurt more. Yeah, I've been that athlete.
So how did you not wind up at Tennessee and staying at U of H?
Because of my dearest coach, Burrell. He looked at me my senior year and he was like, as I'm just skyrocketing, I'm breaking records, I'm doing all these things that we always knew that I would and could do, but they were finally able to happen. And he looked at me and he was like, I think we've been robbed of 3 years. I think you should stay here. And he was like, if you find the program that you're going to go study. If you find something here, like, we'll pay for it. I'll hire you. Like, you're the last of the breed of hurdlers we have. And we just recruited a bunch of hurdlers. And at that point, I'd already been working with the hurdlers. I was a team captain for 2 years. I was always working the camp that had the younger athletes. And he just was like, you're like an amazing coach, but you're also an amazing person that people listen to and respect. And I'd love to, like, I feel like you would be such a huge part of this program moving forward. And I'm like, dang, coach. Like, how do I say no to getting my school paid for, he was like, you stay here, we train for the Olympics. I think you compete at the next level. And I'm like, the Olympics? I tried last year and Nigeria didn't even answer my call at all. Like, nobody even answered me because I was just mid. Like, I was like, I was like good enough to be good in Africa, but not in the world, right? And so now that I'm running sub 13 seconds, they're all like, oh, Seun. And I'm like, so he's like, you have what it takes to compete at the next level. So stay here, you can train, I'll still coach you, you can get your school paid for, and you'll work here.
There are so many athletes who are first generation American. They play, train in college, and they compete in the Olympics for their home country. Mm-hmm. And they will get grief, and there will be the narrative that they backdoored their way in, which clearly wasn't the case for you because you were running well enough in theory to qualify and compete for Team USA. Yeah. I know part of the design behind you running for Nigeria had a bigger purpose.
Absolutely.
What about the narrative about Nigeria were you hoping to shift by shining a light on your homeland in a different way?
It was in that moment in 2004, we had family that were in town that summer when the Olympics was on, and the opening ceremonies were coming on that day, and we had a full house, and everyone sat at the table waiting for Nigeria to walk in with that flag. And at that point, I was like a junior in high school, right? So I was aware of like some of the negative things that have been said about Nigerians. Like, Nigerians are scammers. That I'm like, some of the best people I've ever met in my entire existence were Nigerian. And then the amount of pride that came when they just saw that flag, it was like a beautiful moment to celebrate the goodness of the culture in the country, which is what sports does, right? Sports doesn't think at race or ethnicity or culture. It just celebrates the moment, the achievement. And that was what that did. So I knew that I wanted the world to see, because honestly, for me, like, I feel like Black people in the world won't be fully respected until the continent of Africa is respected. And I felt like it was a bit of a responsibility to help create that type of respect for Black people around the world, because I live in a space where I touch all kinds of backgrounds. I touched Africa, I touched America. And so I've grown up in 100% Black American experience living in a Nigerian household and being connected to the soil. So I just felt like that was something that needed to happen.
The ability to represent Nigeria in the Summer Games, I know probably didn't go as well as you had hoped because you were struggling with a stress fracture. But then you had this grand idea, like, hey, let's start a bobsled federation in a sub-Saharan country. How, pray tell, did that come about?
It wasn't even rooted in me starting. Like, it's so interesting how the narrative has been assumed that, like, oh, I wanted to, like I had this bright idea to do this. I feel like a lot of it was just divine intervention, honestly. Like, I literally wanted to help become the doctor that I feel like I needed when I was a professional athlete. But I knew that as a Black woman in sports, I would need to put myself in a position where I couldn't be denied in order to work with these elite level athletes from the NBA, NFL, Super Bowl champs, like all these people who I know, I have friends, they need help. And a lot of the people that were working with them just were not doing the things that they needed, that I felt like they needed, and I felt like I needed. And so I was like, well, I need to get into another sport.
So I need to learn a whole other sport and start a federation so I can say I'm well schooled in multiple sports, and now you can't deny me. Is that what you're saying?
No, it just happened that way. So I was like, I need to get another sport so I can learn more. I need to pick up more from, a different world. And I knew I wasn't going back to track because I was already retired, checked out from that. And Bob said, you ain't have to run that far. So I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Why is it? There is, among those who have participated in Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics, there's a huge crossover between track athletes and bobsledders.
Yeah.
Why is that?
You have to be strong and fast, right? You are a human motor when you're running. So the faster and stronger you can be, the faster initial speed you can generate to create, what would then become some of the speed that you'll carry on throughout the whole race.
Yeah.
But I knew that when I started, I was on the U.S. team. I was a U.S. bobsled team naturally because there was no African bobsled team, right? None from Nigeria. And I'm American. So I actually tried out for the U.S. team. It was while I was on the team that I started to learn that the sport wanted to grow. And they never had any African team, and they needed more women's teams. And here I come, this woman who's already been to an Olympics for an African country, and I'm in a position to actually start a team. It took me 6 months to actually decide that I would do this. Mind you, I had gone back to school at this point. So I am actively pursuing what was initially meant to be a dual degree that turned into 3 degrees at the same time as starting an international federation for a country that I don't live in for a sub-Saharan winter sport. It doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't, but I'm glad you said that and it didn't come from me. So there's a level of self-realization there.
I'm very introspective.
Okay, so that's it. We're going to check that box. To me, starting a federation, in my head, it was starting your first company.
Yeah.
You had to raise money. You had to pull the team together.
Yeah.
You had to pull resources together. How did you do all of this? Because starting a federation to me is Seun's entryway into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
That's really great that you made that connection because I never even really thought about it that way, right? I think I'm grateful that I come from an entrepreneurial minded family. Like my dad has been an entrepreneur his whole life, right? And so I think naturally I've always been of the world of creating in spaces, filling a need, filling a void, finding the need or finding the void. And so having understood that I need to create this federation, I have a process. I'm like, well, where do I need to, what's the end goal here? And the end goal is we want to qualify a team for the Olympics. And so I create in my mind, this is a checklist of things that have to happen in order for this end goal to actually be met.
What did that checklist consist of?
So 1, I needed to learn how to be a driver because I wasn't a driver, right? I needed to find brakemen. I needed to establish a federation that we can actually operate under. I needed to get that federation recognized by our Olympic committee. I needed to get it recognized by the International Bobsled and Skeleton Federation. So then that way, that makes us Olympic eligible. Then I needed to do the qualifications. So I needed to successfully learn how to drive and not crash through at least 5 races on 3 separate tracks within the year that I had.
And who was funding you?
No one. I was. The way this debt is set up behind running this international country for the last 10 years. Yeah, I was in school. So I quit my job as a coach. I resigned in order to go back to school so that I can get the tools I needed academia-wise to help in the sports medicine space, help revolutionize sports medicine.
What part of your inner athlete did you need to channel to stand up the federation?
The competitor in me. The part of me that literally decides that I'm never going to be defeated since I was a kid. The part of me that understands that if you put in the work, an outcome would come, right? That's how athletes think. If I do enough of the work, then I will get the outcome I'm looking for. If I do enough reps, I shoot enough balls. Right, I'll get out, my shot will get better. But what I had to learn and hone into, which was to your point, how starting this federation prepared me for being a CEO is, you can't always work hard. You got to learn how to work smart. right? And you also have to be able to lean on your resources in order to execute effectively, because you can run yourself in the ground thinking that you're putting in the reps, but you're not doing them the right way or in the right direction.
What was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part was just getting the country on board. Like, you can't walk up to a sub-Saharan country and tell them that you want to do a winter sport. And they're like, we don't even have winter in our country.
So did you fly to Nigeria to go pitch this?
Oh, yeah.
How'd that go?
Oh, you forgot you talking to a calculated young lady. So I already knew, having competed for Nigeria in track, I knew what I was going up against. So I understood that in order to get this, even the attention and the ear, I would have to be able to come in bearing gifts.
Oh.
Right?
Okay, like the little Trojan horse situation.
I couldn't come in requesting and asking for things, because it's not like they wanted to give it in the first place. Yeah. That I created it, now I want them to give it to me? Well, that doesn't make sense. So I presented it and packaged it as a gift. If you see the GoFundMe that I created, it says, "My gift to Nigeria, Nigeria's gift to Africa." That's the GoFundMe. Because it wasn't about what I could take from the country. It was about what I knew was going to help elevate the country, the continent, and the people around the world.
How did you explain to leadership that by you starting a federation, you were going to lift up Nigeria?
Well, for one, I had a little bit of a cheat code. The senior vice president of the Olympic Committee used to be my president when I ran track for Nigeria. He was the president of the Athletics Federation. Yeah. When you're fast and when you're number one, you can also, that also works in your advantage, right? So
the fact that you were a 3-time national champion for Nigeria,
right,
and a 2-time African champion, that gave you a little bit of street cred when you walked in that door. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I got you.
It's good to be champion. So
it's good to be queen.
When you're looking for something later, just win, okay?
Yep.
That's a great start.
Noted.
So, it worked out to where I had an inlet into the Olympic Committee who trusted me, believed in me, respected me, and was willing to kind of escalate what it was that we were trying to do for the 2018 Games.
You make it to the Olympics. Mm-hmm. Where you place doesn't matter.
I'm glad you know it, because I know it too.
So it really, just getting to the place in your situation, last place, first place, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What was the most fun part about just getting there? Because there was a tremendous amount. You were the Nigerian version of Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsled team. Yep. You were just doing it for Nigeria.
Yeah.
What was the best part?
Walking into the opening ceremonies. It was such a full circle moment
to when you watched it in 2004.
Yes. When you daydream, right? When you see something happening and you're like, one day I'm going to do that, right? Or one day I want to do that.
And you did.
And then it happens. Yeah. And I was a total out-of-body experience.
Every time you looked at your sled and you saw the word Mayflower on it, M-A-E, flower, the story, you had lost your sister several years prior in a car accident.
Yeah.
Every time you walked up to that sled and saw her name on it, what went through your head?
We did it, girlfriend. We did it. We did it. And I'll always say to myself, I would look at the sled, I'd be like, hey, they gonna know your name. They gonna know your name. Like, your legacy will live forever because you are attached to me. And that, in its tragedy, unlocked a version of myself that I didn't know existed.
Who was that?
That was the person who believed that she could. Competitor and all those things, that's one thing. It's another thing to show face, as you say, like, yeah, I could do this, but deep down inside, you don't really believe it, right? When she passed away in 2009, I was actually at the regional championships running track.
In
college, my senior year. And I still had all of my final races the next day. And her name was Emeze. And I used to call her Amazing, Miss Amazing. She was born with sickle cell. And so when she would have a crisis, I would just be like, man, she's, like her power and will to get out, and just like ways to just be like, girl, you're amazing, and amazing rhyme with Ameze. So, it was just very natural as a kid to be like, amazing. So I wrote Miss Amazing on my shoes the day that the day that she passed. And so then what happened was people started seeing Miss Amazing, and people were like, oh, you Miss Amazing. You know, they don't know the story. They just see Miss Amazing. Meanwhile, I'm like, no, it's a dedication to someone else. But eventually I started allowing people to feel that way because she is me, I am her, we are together, right? And then I started embodying like, you're Miss Amazing. Like, yeah, you're amazing. Like, yeah, and you can be, and that's okay. And you can own that, and you can be that.
Everything that you do is to help others.
Yeah.
You lead with mission, you lead with purpose. What about that led you to really focus your health practice in biomechanics?
I'm a fundamentalist at core. I'm like, where did it start? Where is it going? Right? And so I knew I was a biomechanist when I was running track at U of H, and I understood that if there's enough tension on something, it will break. If there's enough pull on this, I'm like, oh, well, the same thing happens in the anatomy. And so I think for me, it was a big aha moment when I realized, like, this is what sports medicine is missing. It's missing the emphasis on where do things start? Where do they end? What is their job? And are they doing their job?
And with that understanding, how can you prevent injury? Yeah.
If you just understand where a muscle starts, where it ends, and what its job is, you can pretty much identify not only where an issue is, but also how to prevent it from becoming a problem.
There's also such a strong connection to the mind, and knowing that you were a psychology minor in Houston. I was wondering if you were thinking back then that the mind and the role it plays with the body when it comes to athletes and competition, were you thinking, okay, let me delve into that part of it as well?
It was something that I just would see. And because of, I guess, my experiences and the way my brain works, I immediately thought, well, does your brain know that this muscle isn't firing properly? Like, which sounds like a crazy question to ask, right? Like, does your brain know that this quad is turned off?
But sometimes you're just not putting two and two together. You're assuming if there is pain, if there's an injury that is specific to a muscle, or at least the surrounding muscles, I'm not conditioned to think, okay, what's going on in my brain that's creating that pain, or maybe just the perception of pain.
That was actually a study I did for one of my masters, was the perception of hamstring injuries versus the physical outcomes of their injuries. And I found that the perception of these track athletes was about 80% more than the actual physical injury that was still in the hamstring itself. And so it's like your body and your mind feel like you're still hurt. And so you still operate according to that.
And you're still overcompensating.
And you start overcompensating. So your mind is the number one indicator of how your muscles will respond.
Yeah. You've talked about how your competitive nature that you learned through sports helped you stand up the Bobsled Federation. What else that you learned through sports empowered you to go into private practice? Because you easily could have just been a practitioner in somebody else's practice.
Betting on myself, being able to execute in a sport, in an event, in a high pressure moment, right? Because coming from a basketball, like if you got to shoot the buzzer beater, whatever, right? In track and field, if you're the anchor and you got to be the one to bring us home. Composure, patience, that grace, the ability to, what they call it, like amnesia, instant amnesia, right? Like
short
forget
memory,
the play.
Something bad goes wrong, on to the next.
On to the next, you know, the ability to pivot, right? And to continue to persevere even when things aren't going your way, which is something that happens all the time in sport, especially if you ever do a team sport. You know, you don't have control over everything. And so when things don't go your way, that doesn't mean that you still can't get the outcome that you're looking for. And so I knew that I could bet on myself and execute the way that I knew that sports medicine really needed.
You give back to your country by shifting the narrative. You give to patients by helping them be the best versions of their athlete selves. You give to underrepresented populations in lots of different ways, but specifically as a global Special Olympics ambassador dating back to 2018. Why the passion specifically for this group that personally touches your heart and your experience?
So I grew up with a couple individuals who had varying abilities, but I think even then I wasn't attracted to them because of their varying ability. I was attracted to them because of their actual ability, right? It was different than everyone else. It was compassionate. It was authentic. It was true. It was unfiltered. And that right there made me feel like I wanted to help protect it. And if I could show understanding and if I could be excited about them every day, so could you. And that was where my passion was. I've naturally always been a protector. I'm the only girl. I've got 3 brothers, right? So the whole nurture and protection was something that I always had. And for me, it always felt like a responsibility to help protect their quality of life.
What is relatable between you as a Black woman in medicine and how Special Olympics athletes are perceived?
The biggest relatability is that I feel like both groups are considered less than, and they shouldn't be. As a Black woman in medicine, in sports medicine, it's like you're not adequate enough to tell a Black man or a white man or any man how they're supposed to perform or what their abilities are or and the narrative is changing more now, obviously, but like it wasn't always like that, right? You're not respected in the regard of your intellect or your ability to treat, right? You're not respected. You're not seen. You're not highlighted for the things that you can do. You're put to the bench and expected to just learn the way that it's supposed to be done, right? And with special needs individuals, it's the same way. It's like there's no respect, there's no regard for their capabilities, for their abilities, they're not seen, they're excluded. Medicine doesn't even look at some of their conditions in depth. Like they're not studied, they don't. And I mean, like, again, as a Black woman, a big part of why I went into sports medicine is because I felt like I needed to treat athletes like me. So many of my issues were related to the way that I'm genetically predisposed, which is the same way with Special Olympics. They're genetically predisposed for the things that they have to deal with.
The focus of your research right now specifically is on muscle testing for special needs athletes. Why is that necessary?
Because it's not happening.
What's different about the mechanics of able-bodied athletes and special needs athletes that requires that specific sort of attention that you want to give in research?
I think the big thing is people see special needs individuals and they immediately try and back away. Like, oh, like they treat it like it's so fragile that we don't want to mess with it or do anything. They're humans. They operate and move and compete and they get injured. They have fatigue. They have ways that they can get stronger and be more competitive as well. Like just because they have a varying ability doesn't mean they don't want to be great, right? And if you can aspire to be great, why can't they? And why aren't we studying more about the ways that they can be great? Why aren't we adding more data to the way that they can move versus focusing on the things that they can't do?
Yeah. It's no secret that there is an underrepresentation of research around female athletes and specifically female athletes of color. Where's the opportunity there?
It's endless. The opportunity is endless, when it comes to research, which I think is what makes me really excited about just the future in general, because we can find inlets where we can create the research for Black women. And I think it's so necessary because so many of the standards that we're compared to are to mostly like white men. And our genetics are different, our body composition is different. All these things are just very different. So I think that not only is it a great opportunity, it's a necessity that research for Black women be increased.
Seun, you have spent a lifetime leveraging your platform as an athlete to lift others up, to help others. What message do you want to give to other female athletes about what their abilities are, their potential is through playing sports?
I really want female athletes to know that you can do anything. And that sounds super cliche, but it really does start with the intrinsic feeling, like inside, knowing that there is nothing that I can't put my mind to become a better version of myself yesterday. And sports is an amazing avenue to do that. Like, you get the opportunity to practice over and over again ways to create the tools that you'll need later in life. And so I feel like with women, I want them to know that, like, just do the things, do all the things, you know, be that person. Don't be afraid. Don't be limited. Strive for whatever it is that you want. Impossible is nothing. You know, don't think about the limitations that are created around you. Think about the limitations you create for yourself.
Dr. Seun Adigun, thank you for being a part of the Athlete Effect Sisterhood.
Thank you so much for having me a part of it.
I don't know, is it me or does Dr. Seun give some serious Energizer Bunny energy? Dynamic in so many ways. And I love how she leads with mission in every aspect of her life, helping patients, supporting special needs athletes, uplifting her native Nigeria. An incredible example of how we have the ability to use our platforms as athletes for good. In the show notes, you will find Seun's social handles and website. Say hello to her. Info about Special Olympics, socials for The Athlete Effect, The Champion's Edge, our TV show on ABC, and for yours truly. Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. Today's shout-outs, Seun, our podcast squad, Allison Johnson, Kyla Carnero, Jess Levy, Kimberly Neal, and our amazing production team on the TV side for The Champion's Edge. Audrey Smith, Kelly Dancho, Annie Chantavong, Lapita Davis, Jordan Kessler. Love you, ladies. Glad to be on this journey with you. The Athlete Effect is a Walk Swiftly Productions podcast. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved. Thanks for spending time with us today. And remember, once an athlete, always an athlete. We'll see you next time.